What's up, YouTube? I'm Mike the Cop, and welcome to the Failure to Stop YouTube channel, the #1 show where law enforcement meets culture. Normally, you don't get to see this show. This is the off-the-cuff edition. We have 5 shows a week on any audio platform. We normally do our broadcast live Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock Eastern Time for Night Shift, and Friday mornings, 11 a.m. for just the flagship Failure to Stop show with our case breakdowns. So this is a little bit different. Normally, the members on our YouTube channel and our Discord are the only people that get access to the recordings or the videos for Off the Cuff, where Dave and I break down current law enforcement news. But being that I was moving this weekend and it was Father's Day, happy Father's Day, belated to all of y'all, we decided to pull something out of the archives. 2017, you guys might remember the Daniel Shaver case, and Dave and I actually had broken that down on my YouTube video when the body cam footage was released and the officer was acquitted of second-degree murder. So this fits in the wheelhouse of our show because it's a case breakdown, and it buys me and Dave a weekend free, so it was nice. Enjoy this. Dave and I bring our perspective as we walk through here. Listen, the reality is it is silly to blindly hate the cops, and it is silly to blindly defend cops. We should always be seeking to pursue and defend the truth, and that's what we try to get after in this, but give a perspective of experienced officers in the process, especially Dave, who has been involved in critical shooting incidents, and so he brings a level of understanding to this situation. And why our sort of, I guess, conclusion to this, we'll spoil it, is that there's just no winners. There's no winners. This is an interesting case that I hope you enjoy the breakdown of. If you want to support the channel, hey, just subscribe, hit the notification bell, tell other people about the show, interact with us on social media, Failure to Stop, wherever you're at. And then also, hey, if you like audio podcasts, we've got, again, 5 episodes a week. Go check us out, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., etc. Subscribe there. All the good stuff. Enjoy the show. We appreciate you guys. We're sitting on a hot potato. Wait, you hold hot potatoes.
Well, you could sit on it.
Or
too.
preferably not. Right. I don't want to hold a hot potato or sit on a hot potato.
I think I would rather not sit on it. I would rather if I had to do
if
something.
If you had to choose between sitting and holding the
right.
hot potato,
I would hold the hot potato. I would not sit on it.
Yeah.
Unless I was adequately clothed. So
multiple layers. Mm-hmm. Multiple layers.
Yeah.
In the ancient days, they used to pile hot potatoes in a hole in the ground.
I remember.
To warm the house.
I remember that.
Good days. We appreciated things more then.
Yeah, back then we did. And it also served as our cooler in the summertime.
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely. Cold potatoes are actually, it's a little known fact that cold potatoes are actually as effective as hot potatoes.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the nutrition's still there. And, obviously that transition from the winter months into the summer, that springtime, you would consume the potatoes at that time. And by the summertime, you would have a cooling area, yes.
And that is exactly why my time in Ireland will always be looked upon fondly. Oh, boy. All right, so we agreed that we needed to get right to this. We gotta jump in.
There's been a ton of comments and people asking for this video or
the Daniel Shaver murder trial. It just wrapped up. I actually had never heard of the situation until very early yesterday or whatever else. I mean, I had a lot of feedback on completely unrelated videos on YouTube,
right,
or on Facebook, people saying, like, what are your comments on Daniel Shaver? What do you think? We want to hear your thoughts. And then, of course, people immediately made an assumption about what I would think,
right.
That either that I was just going to defend the cops no matter what, or whatever it is. And that's what we were talking about. Like, we end up in today's cultural climate, people immediately will either rush to defend or criticize. There's very little time to absorb, and people get mad when I'm like, I haven't had time to look at everything. Of course, you're going to say that because now it involves a cop, so now you want to take your time. Right. If it was really justified or whatever, if it was somebody else, you would just jump right in there and defend. No, well, look at the track record. I mean, I really do want to just pursue the truth.
Well, but that's where the issue becomes, right? Because where we have decided to use critical thinking, we don't have time for that anymore, right? Because people are so impatient. So they want basically what people are asking for is an opinion.
Yeah.
Right. And so we will either be you'll be either be praised or criticized on an opinion.
This is one of those where it's sort of like the catch-22 position, because if you've already decided, right, if you're a cop hater, this situation, you feel like it's just ammo.
Yes.
Right. Like this proves it. This proves that what I think is right. And then if you are a don't step out of the cop bubble ever kind of a guy, or girl or whatever, and you just defend cops all the time because you feel so beat up on that all you want to do now is defend cops, then you feel like I can't believe you would Monday morning quarterback another officer. You weren't there. You don't know. I can't believe you're acting like all the cop haters. Like, so there are two groups of people who are going to not like us either way.
Right.
No matter what we say, because we're not trying to fit either of those molds. We're not here to just be champions of cop causes. I don't think. Are we?
I don't think so.
That's not in your contract, right?
Well, but it is like you said. So the reality is this is an opinion. That's it.
This is our honest
two guys
opinion.
An opinion. We were not at the trial. I wasn't involved with the trial. I knew nothing of the trial until this verdict actually came out.
Right.
And so I started looking into it just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And I watched the video several times. I've tried to look up other things, but the idea is to approach this with critical thinking. So you have to do your best to cut right down the middle of that line, and then decide what was happening at the time, what's going on in everybody's head at the time also. And again, all speculation.
Yeah.
So I can tell you this: if you are a troll, if you are a person who just hates cops, you will probably post on YouTube or whatever. Just know that your comment will go unanswered because I just don't care.
Right.
If you bring nothing to this table, except for just a one-sided opinion about bootlicking, whatever, then it will not be. We don't care.
Yeah.
So you can do it if you want to. You're going to get nothing from me. I just don't care. This is an opinion. If, on the other hand, you are that guy who gets extremely angry over what we may possibly say because you live in the cop bubble, you could post if you want to. I don't care. I don't care what you say. You will not be met with any kind of comment from me whatsoever. I just don't care. Again, this is our opinion.
Yeah, I think on this particular topic, I only plan on engaging with people who would have legitimate input,
one way or the other,
from the perspective of the same perspective we're taking, which
Correct.
is let's try to understand this objectively.
Yeah.
I mean, people were already accusing me of avoiding the topic. A topic that I just became aware of. They're like, you post this video. I'm like, listen, man, sometimes I make video content days, or even in the case of the podcast, sometimes it's a week or two before it ever even comes up. So it's not an issue of avoiding something. And this is our podcast. It's not theirs.
Right.
I mean, we obviously want to talk about topics that engage the listener or the viewer or whatever it is, but we're not here to feel free to make a YouTube channel or a podcast if you want to share your opinion with the world.
Yeah.
But don't criticize us because we're not as fast or giving you exactly what you wish the channel was. It is what it is.
Right.
But we are doing this fast because you texted me. I said, yeah, I want to get on this because this topic is like a right now. So this is a special edition of the Off the Cuff podcast.
And again, going back to that, just knowing that people want things right now, and that's just not how I work. And again, we understood that this is a hot topic that needs to be discussed, but I would be doing a disservice to our people who want to listen and actually get an opinion from me. I can't just throw out an opinion without actually having some thought behind that. So I apologize if we didn't get this out fast enough for you. We can only do, and again, he just learned about it yesterday, and so again, we can only go by the restraint. But I worked midnights last night. I got home, and I was up for a little while, and I texted Mike probably around 10:30 or almost 10:30 or 10:45 or whatever, and I was like, when are we going to do a video on this? And you responded at like 11:15 or whatever, but I had actually fallen asleep probably around 11, and I woke up at 2:30. So I saw his text. I was like, oh, let's do this. Can we do this now? And the producer was able to do it. So we've been actually here in studio. And again, I'm not trying to drag this out, but we've had some severe technical difficulties for about 2 hours now. So we're actually like, I'm like, I'm tired before I even start the podcast because I was up and again, we go in like with this expectation of getting the information out there and that kind of stuff, and it didn't quite happen. But I think that once this starts going through, I think again, hopefully some people will be educated on it. I mean, obviously, some people don't care.
They've already decided. It doesn't matter what we're going to say in this video. That's they've already decided. Just know if you comment on it, God bless America. We're just not going to respond. So it'll be in vain. The only people we're going to take seriously on this video in the comments are those who are actually engaging with some level of seriousness. If you just want to spout off, then I hope you feel better. Right. All right, let's dive in. We're going to set the stage a little bit. Maybe you know about this, maybe you don't. The situation occurred in January of 2016 out in Mesa, Arizona, and
at a La Quinta. Yes.
And they were called to someone because some guests had become concerned seeing what they believed to be a long barrel rifle, possibly being aimed at the highway nearby or something like that. They were concerned.
Out the window.
Yeah, they were concerned that somebody might have been in there planning to shoot people, close by, far away, I don't know, but they became concerned. They called the police. So the police are responding to basically a man with a gun in a hotel room.
A man with a long gun.
Yes.
In a hotel room. This takes place on, I believe, the 5th floor. And again, it takes place January of 2016, not even this year, but 2016. So keep
coming up on
in
2
mind
years.
Also.
Literally.
Right? Yeah.
So this is what they're responding to. So I think it's important to understand the mindset of everyone involved. Now we have this unimaginable advantage right now, all of us, of hindsight. Right. And our hindsight might not always even be accurate, but at least we have that. Now I couldn't tell you exactly what these officers were thinking. I can't tell you what Daniel Schaefer was thinking or his the female companion that he had with him at the time. I don't know what they were thinking. We do know that looking back, he had his autopsy revealed a blood alcohol content of 0.29. So we know that alcohol was a factor in maybe what he was doing before the police showed up, had been called, and how he understood or processed what was going on then as well. So that was a factor that we look back now that might have been a problem then, but we don't presume to think we understand it all. We all have the advantage of looking back at a situation like this in a video that we can play again and again and again and analyze all the little nuances and all the little details. None of that is an advantage that anybody had in that tragedy, and that I do call it a tragedy. It's tragic that he was killed.
It's tragic 100%. When somebody loses a life. It is tragic.
I would say that
there's a family that suffers.
Absolutely.
Even it's and keep in mind this too, that obviously this is a podcast where there's two police officers and we talk and we have fun and we enjoy ourselves. Obviously this is more serious of a topic, but
I don't know how many jokes you can drop in in the situation
at this point, but so I want certain people to understand, again, there's some people who really don't like police officers. Okay, I get that. So keep in mind that I've been on the job about 20 years now. Mike, I know it's been 20 years. Man. Mike has been on the job for a long time. He has a family. He has a whole life outside of police work. As myself, I'm married. I have 2 awesome children, and as we talked about before, one with special needs. We are family men. before we are police officers. We are human beings before we are police officers, and hopefully those things translate into our occupation. And a lot of people don't see that. A lot of people don't understand that.
Don't care to understand it. But it's okay.
Well, and I'll let in on this, that in my career I've been involved with three officer-involved shootings. One where I pulled the trigger, and the individual lost their life. So this is coming from a point of view from somebody who has been there, and we've all been. I think if you've been a police officer for longer than a day or a week or a month, we've all been in these types of situations. My shooting, where I had to pull the trigger on somebody, was very different than this. So again, keep in mind, every situation is different.
Absolutely.
And they have to be approached very carefully.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to let people know that, again, we're human beings before we're anybody else. Police officers, at least none that I know of personally, don't put on a uniform, put their gun in their holster, and go, I can't wait to kill somebody today. Because if that was the case, A, you wouldn't be a police officer for very long, but B, you would probably be very disappointed for your entire career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it would be very rare that type of thing happens to anybody.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing for us. The last thing we can imagine is having to take somebody's life.
So these two sort of like extremes, right? The trolls that think cops are just trigger happy, they're just out to get us. First of all, a lot more people be dead.
And it makes me nervous that they would think, like, what is in their mind, actually?
Yeah, what spurns that? Where does that come from? It's just not based on any type of fact. There's a lot of other ways that you're at greater risk in your life.
Yeah, especially
going to the doctor,
older,
for example, would be one of those things.
Yeah,
riding in a car would be one of those things. Golfing may be more. I don't know, but it's if like you got to kind of tease out this stuff into the what ifs, like play it out to its logical conclusions. If cops, on the whole, as most cop haters would like to think, are just out to kill people and harm people and lock people up. If that was the logical conclusion, how come we don't see that played out? Like,
right.
you would see a whole lot of different circumstances being played out than you do. And on the other hand, you've got this whole other defensive side because they feel law enforcement is falsely portrayed so often, so they become nothing but defensive. We can do no wrong.
Right.
And you and I will, no doubt, I guarantee there will be cops that watch this that criticize us because we're willing to say, like, here's what we think, and it might be contradictory to what someone who would just blindly defend cops would think. So we're going to play the video back, and we'll just share our thoughts, I guess, as we go.
Also, real quick, just know that these are opinions. It by no means does my department or our departments necessarily feel the same way we do.
I don't know what they feel.
I have absolutely no idea, but we don't represent our departments at all. This is an opinion. That's it. This is all it is.
That's it.
So,
all right. So we had the video up on our screen. Our producer is going to kind of like put it in later, I guess. Right.
So keep in mind too, there was what I was reading is when the jury, when they actually showed this cam. Because they did during the trial, this was shown. Now, a lot of people think that it was not shown.
Yeah, I saw,
and that it didn't even come out until after. That's not true. The cam video was shown. There was 18 minutes of footage, and we only see about 5 minutes.
We kind of boiled it down on this one video,
and it's about the
BNL.
only one that's available. This is about the longest video available.
So here we have what's going on, and just speak up if we need to pause it and explain kind of like what we're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Stop right there! Stop! Stop! Get on the ground, both of you! Lay down on the ground! Lay down on the ground!
Okay, I'm a little concerned that we're going to stop too much, and I don't want to drag this out. But what the first thing that stands out to me is there is immediate compliance.
Right.
I'm looking for if I put myself behind that rifle, which I would 100% have out if I responded to a long gun call. I'm going to have a long gun.
Yeah, it should be even a question of what kind of weaponry that you're going to bring. That's not even
a lot of people
issue.
Like, oh, they came ready to kill people. Listen, I'm going to have a weapon of some kind out on a gun call. That doesn't bother me at all. What I'm looking for, if I put myself in this officer's shoes, is what kind of indicators is this person giving me? Now, that doesn't mean that someone can't feign compliance,
and that absolutely does happen.
But that stands out to me. Like there's no aggressive body postures. There is immediate compliance when they say get down, get your hands up, get down on the ground. Both subjects do it immediately.
Yes.
So I mean, to me, that sort of sets the stage for why I think this situation, I think, was ultimately avoidable, but also at the same time, the exact moment may have justified it, but I think that this begins this period of things that I think was avoidable by paying attention to these cues.
Also, keep in mind for people who aren't police officers, know that these kind of AR platform weapons are actually have basically taken the place of what used to be a shotgun in our scout cars. It's extremely common now for people for officers to carry these.
Right.
These are the replacement for the old school shotguns.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind.
Apparently we have a failure for you to comprehend simple instructions. I'm going to go over some of them again, okay? Can you both hear and understand?
So just real quick is that from what we understand, what we've read is that the officer on the cam is not the one giving the commands. So the one who's on this camera right now is
the
not
actual officer who shot his weapon was not the same giving most of the commands that we hear, correct?
Okay,
that's what I understand.
Yeah, that's what
I
read.
I could be
was
wrong.
A supervisor.
I found that information on like 3 different sites that I was looking at to confirm like who is doing the talking. It's supposedly it's his sergeant.
Oh, yeah. And so there's already seems to be a little bit of confusion with the individual giving the commands about whether they are being compliant or not. Now, I didn't see non-compliance. I see confusion, but I'm not sure exactly what this officer saw that maybe I didn't see. But again, I'm looking at a very narrow scope of view. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Another mistake. There's a very severe possibility you're both going to get shot. Do you understand that?
Yes.
I do. Yes. All right.
What the?
Shut up. I'm not here to be tactful or diplomatic with you. You listen, you obey. For one thing, did I tell you to move, young man? Did I tell you to put both your hands? Put both your hands.
See, to me, he gives them the command. They're not moving at all.
Correct.
I mean, he's got a little bit of wiggling. There's no major motion going on here, and the officer, instead of just, to me, being very clear, very direct, and let's get this contained as fast as possible, is now he's having this conversation. I'm not here to be tactful. I'm not here to, have this conversation with you. But that's exactly what he's doing. He's dragging this out, to me, unnecessarily. Give the command, and then let's get in, move in, and secure them. Or get them to us and secure them. He is the one, to me, that is saying unnecessary words.
Right, and again, I don't know the police department's policies on, we'll say a modified felony stop, if you want to call it that. I don't know what their policy is on that. Generally, we would usually only have one person calling out the commands, and it doesn't have to be a supervisor, but they would like just one person doing that.
Yep.
Maybe they have a whole script that they worked out. I do not know. I don't work for this police department. I have no idea.
Right.
But it does. Again, I listen to this, and you're right. We look for indicators, and I'm not seeing a lot of indicators. But again, I have a narrow scope of what's actually going on because I don't know what's going on with the lady over here and who's watching it. And I don't know how many police officers are behind this officer here on the camera.
I believe there are 5 total there.
But we don't know if did they come in
afterwards?
Or is this the initial responder? Boom, there's one, and then all of a sudden there's another supervisor or a supervisor that starts talking. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
On the top of your head and interlace your fingers. Take your feet and cross your left foot over your right foot. Who else is in the room?
Nobody.
I don't know what the delay is, so.
Are you both drunk? No. All right. So you're not going to have any problems understanding anything that I tell you, right? Great. All right.
Can I go to my room?
No, you're not going to do anything but come towards us. Young man, you are not to move. You're to put your eyes down and look down at the carpet. You're to keep your fingers interlaced behind your head. You're to keep your feet crossed. If you move, we're going to consider that a threat, and we are going to deal with it, and you may not survive it. Do you understand me? Yes, sir.
Again, I also don't know the experience level of these officers either.
Yeah.
I have no idea if these guys have a one day on the job.
If
or 20
I had to predict what ultimately saved this issue at trial, was that these commands were explicit, at least in terms of like, if you do these things, you could be shot.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're trying to communicate that to them. But again, I just, the communication is key. You know, clear, loud, verbal commands are really important. We see that here, but
as we'll see, they start becoming complicated.
Yes, we're already drawn out. You said earlier, I don't know what the delay is. Obviously, they're concerned that someone, I would be, okay, concerned that someone else is in the room. I mean, it's not like people don't lie to the police. Is there anybody else in the room? Nope.
And that happens
maybe they
all
are.
The time.
You know, maybe there are people in the room, so you don't want to run over to the room. But at the same time, we are standing in this hallway for a pretty long period of time without getting them
one way
cleared
or the other,
out of the other a little bit faster. To me.
And again, so just so some people understand, if they don't normally do this for a living, those officers are staying back. They're not going up to the suspects because, like you said, Mike, what is happening behind that wall? There's drywall, there's 2x4, and there's probably insulation, and that would be all that's keeping a long gun round from going through those walls. Now, you and I know that locally a few years ago, we actually had an officer killed. The suspect actually shot through the wall and killed an officer who was actually on the SWAT team, who was, I believe he actually had, well, I can't say that he did or did not have a vest on, but again, I think he was struck in the head. So this is a real danger for police officers. Absolutely. This is a real deal. So if you haven't been in this situation, you have to, again, critically thinking, try to understand what's going on. And for the people who say, well, that's their job, yes, that's true. But again, I'm a human being, right? I have a family that I want to go home to. Yeah. And if you've never been faced with the fact that you may not come home, well, then you're the guy who just keeps commenting on Facebook, I guess. So, go ahead.
Young lady, shut up and listen. All right? You are to keep your feet crossed. Take both of your hands, put them flat in front of you. You are to push yourself up to a kneeling position. Kneeling position. Now, put both your hands in the air. Okay, crawl towards us. I'm so sorry.
Okay,
which is something I would not be able to do. My knees are actually bad enough. I would not actually physically.
There's
be able
the
to
first.
do that.
Put your hands up. Now crawl to us.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, it's hard to hear. It's hard to hear everything that's going on. Like we have the volume up pretty loud in here to make sure for us to hear. But listen, if you're that guy, is he talking to you? Is he talking to her? She is doing the actions, right? Correct. She puts her hands up. She pulls herself to her knees.
But the guy has his face down too. So
the guy has his face down. Is who's the command going to? But she's doing it. But think about the complexity in a tense situation, like where there's officers pointing these weapons. Mm-hmm. If you hadn't done anything wrong, which it turns out he wasn't pointing the gun at anybody. It doesn't seem like out in the parking lot, or didn't have a plot to use his pellet gun, which is it turns out to be 2 pellet rifles or something like that in the room were found. No guns on him. You're in this state of mind like, what is going on? Then you're told, put your hands up, now crawl to me. Well, where are my hands supposed to go if I'm crawling?
Right. Again,
my hands going to go back down? Are they going to stay up? These commands then begin to get a little bit confusing.
They start becoming a little bit more confusing, but with that, rightfully so, the officer is starting to become frustrated because he believes that he's giving clear and concise instructions.
Yeah.
And again, we come back and look at this afterwards, but this officer believes he's giving the right commands at the right times to do the right thing in order to take these people into custody or detain them, figure out what's going on. And it's starting to ramp up because he believes this is not the case. This is not happening the way it should. So.
Stop. Okay. Cuff, grab, pull.
No, Rich, pull
Pull.
this
Rich,
way.
Pull.
So it sounds like Rich didn't do exactly what they wanted him to do in taking her into custody. They're yelling at Rich now.
Yeah.
No, Rich.
Yeah.
Pull, do this, like do this.
Right.
And maybe they want Rich to pull her back, like get back.
Right. It
maybe,
looks
is
like
what,
that because it would be more tactically advantageous because obviously there's a long gun there and he was forward of the muzzle. So I can understand
and he walks
that.
closer to Shaver now. It looks like for the time being to kind of like be next to that officer who's taking her into custody or whatever. So she's getting cuffed.
Let me know when you're clear. No, you're not clear. You haven't frisked her yet.
So here again is these
confusion.
There's confusion with the officers here for sure. I don't know what I've actually been pretty beneficial in any of these. I've been in situations very, very similar to this, and I've just been fortunate that the team that I was working with, we had
worked well together,
had good communication,
right? And
there wasn't any of these types of I can't relate to this type of what's seeming confusion.
Right.
Like, tell me when you're clear. Okay, I'm clear. No, you're not clear.
Yeah.
You're like,
right.
What's going on right now?
Like, because if I actually, and that's the thing, if I were to tell an officer that I was clear, I'm clear. And so if you were to tell me I'm not clear, that means I must be missing something.
I have been in terms of like these tense situations where I even have been the one to yell out like crossfire, like, hey, listen, we got to pay attention to our position here, like with what's going on. But that's I don't know. That's to clarify, not to confuse.
Right.
Hopefully.
And like we were saying, I don't know the experience level of these individuals. This could be, I don't know how busy their department is. I don't know how many runs they get like this.
Right.
And I don't know how many times this supervisor, we'll call him supervisor because I don't know. That's what they've been saying in the news. I don't know if he's ever even called one of these out before.
Right.
So
yeah,
again, I don't know. Again, I can only assume that he's doing the best that he can right now.
Absolutely.
So, okay. You can keep it plain, but I was also going to say that it seems like everybody's doing the best they can, including the victim.
Yes.
Okay, I need one more cuff rope. Okay. This is the deal. We're going to do almost like we did before. Okay? Have a seat. Okay, young man, listen to my instructions and do not make a mistake. You are to keep your legs crossed. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. You are to put both of your hands palms down, straight out in front of you. Push yourself up to a kneeling position. I said keep your legs crossed!
So here we have the second instance of giving commands back to back that are virtually contradictory or very difficult for someone to accomplish. Keep your feet crossed, but push yourself, like get yourself to this kneeling position.
And before people again, because you're going to have people in that bubble that say it's not that hard. All you got to do is push yourself up and keep.
Yeah,
your
they're going to hate
crossed,
me for
which is fine. But keep in mind, again, when you give a command to an individual, you have to give it to at the lowest common denominator. You have to assume that everybody's 6 years old and been drinking.
Right.
Everybody, and that's because that's how you keep directions and commands short, sweet, crisp, and and what I'm seeing here is I could have seen myself do the same thing. Like as I push myself up, I can't be on my knees like that.
Right.
And so that would have been a problem in the first place. But to naturally bring yourself up to a kneeling position and keep your legs crossed, That's not normal. That's not
No.
what people normally do. So there's a problem.
I don't even tell people to interlace their fingers.
No, I don't.
Because
I never do that either. But again, it's not my policy.
Not our
policy.
Yeah, I most people don't know what that means, or a lot of people do not.
Right,
but
because then even when you do that for trying to, when an officer does it for handcuffing, I'm like, just put your hands back like you're praying, and then
put your hands behind your back.
easier.
You just guide them.
Yeah. All
right.
I didn't say there's a conversation. Hands in the air! Hands up in the air!
This guy is confused right now. And
yeah, he's very confused.
And yes, you're right. And granted, he's not understanding the directions that are given to him. Now, I would say that this officer that's giving the commands is doing at this point, he's doing a okay job, because he's telling him, don't do that. I want him in the air. Okay, that's fine. But I'm not chastising anybody for not knowing what I want from them when I get up there either. Yeah. Right. So,
especially again, given the fact that this guy he's pretty obliterated.
Yeah. And again, they don't know that though.
Right. They don't know that.
As a matter of fact, it's brought out that he asked them if they're drunk or had been drinking. Right. And they both say no. So he's going by that logic. So.
Yeah. So far, I mean, and we'll talk about this in the wrap up, but this is just building up to be a very tragic thing. Like,
it
sucks.
My whole chest was like, it's ramping up, and the supervisor or whoever's talking he's getting louder and louder too,
right.
And that's, again, it makes it tough. Auditory exclusion and that kind of things. It becomes very difficult to concentrate. Can you pause it real quick?
Don't talk! Listen!
So this guy is, please don't shoot me. Please don't shoot me. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people, this has been a big thing where
he was begging for his life.
Begging for his life.
This was an execution.
Right. And so keep in mind that I've had to deal with a lot of people that say the same thing and then do the exact opposite. So when somebody says that, it means nothing to me.
Right.
So when somebody says, please don't shoot me, please don't, first of all, I have no intent to shoot you in the first place. But if all can be avoided, I would never do that in the first place. But keep in mind, that means nothing to me. Mm-hmm. I'm basically not listening to the individual when he says that, because it means nothing, because I've seen too many contradictory
actions
the other
speak
way.
a lot louder than words.
Absolutely.
Actions speak a lot louder than words.
That's probably what they're listening to right now.
And for those that think this was an execution, listen, an execution would be he's tied up and then they walk up behind him and then they shoot him. Like this was not. I do not believe these officers showed up, any single one of them, saying, "Awesome.
Oh, I can't wait!" Right?
I can't wait to get up there and shoot someone. I don't think
and yet
that
somehow
this doesn't indicate that at all.
And yet somehow we are going to take a female into custody first, so that there's a witness, and then we are just going to execute this poor guy. Right?
We got to avoid these extremes, and we'll get to that.
Silly.
We'll get that in our wrap up.
Hands straight up in the air. Do not put your hands down for any reason. You think you're going to fall, you better fall in your face. Your hands go back in the small of your back or down. We are going to shoot you. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. Crawl toward.
Okay, again, all of the indicators to me are not present that he has any malicious intent.
Yeah.
Again, that's not to say that situations in the past where there have been shootings did not go from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour just like that, where someone had not been doing that. But you just look at the response. We are 4 minutes and 15 seconds in since they came out of the room, and there's been no indication, verbal or otherwise, to me that this person has any intent whatsoever to do anybody harm.
Right, just because he's not listening or doesn't seem to be understanding the commands. Again, when they play it back, I'm wondering if, and if he wants to call, great, the supervisor or whoever was calling out the commands and talk. That would be, I think that would be a good interview to see if he would say, you know what, I regret a lot of the things that I said. I look back now, and maybe there needs to be a policy change. Maybe there doesn't.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of confusion, and again, I don't see any malicious intent either way. I don't see it from the officers. I don't see it from this guy. So yeah.
Me. Crawl towards me.
So I'm gonna let's see if I can bring that back just a second.
Hands straight up in the air. Do not put your hands down for any reason. You think you're going to fall, you better fall on your face. Your hands go back into the small of your back or down. We are going to shoot you. Do you understand me?
Again, that phrase right there seems to me probably why a jury wouldn't convict. Because he loudly tells him,
Yes.
if you bring your hands down to the small of your back, we're going to shoot you.
Right.
I mean, like, it's very black and white. Again, from a hindsight perspective, you look back and go, oh, okay, he said it.
Right.
He said it, but he's this is a pretty tense situation as well. And unfortunately, he's gonna make a mistake. He said, "Don't make any more mistakes," but unfortunately, he's gonna make one that will be fatal.
But I guess that's the problem, right? I mean, mistakes aren't something that we do on purpose.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
Crawl towards me. Crawl towards me. Don't go. Get up on him. Okay, hold on him.
So-
One with me.
it's very difficult to watch.
Yeah.
Because I don't generally like scrolling through YouTube and just looking for people to get shot and killed. It's a tragic thing. I look at that where, again, was it technically a reasonable shoot?
Yeah.
Yes, it was. The individual was crawling. He removed his right hand. He brought it to the back of his waistband area where, in the end, he could have been pulling his pants up.
Yep.
He could have been doing anything. Again, I got all day to talk about this, right? They had, 5 minutes in this one, but it's hard to watch because it's tragic no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you and I came to an agreement in terms of like a sentence, if I could phrase it that way, which is that technically this appears to be a justified shooting, and he was acquitted, and people can be mad about court decisions. Well, he shouldn't have been acquitted. Well, okay. OJ was acquitted. I don't think he should have been acquitted.
Right.
I mean, like we can do that all day long. That's not the way the system works. The system works that you get a jury of your peers and the evidence is presented and they have to decide if you are guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That's just the way the system works. We're human and we're flawed, and so decisions that we disagree with they happen every day, right? Both that you and I would disagree with and that anybody else would take an opposite opinion or agree with us that it shouldn't have been the decision. At the same time, recently Walter Scott, was it South Carolina, a shooting where the guy was running away and he shot him in the back.
Yeah.
He got 20 years in prison.
Right.
So I might disagree that he shouldn't have had 20 years in prison. I can look at that situation and go, man, that was definitely a way more volatile situation than this.
Right.
And
you
still,
don't know until you can quarterback.
Still think it was justified or unjustified. So like people are like cops always get off. Well, don't say that.
No,
this
that's not
cop
the case.
was just acquitted of the charges brought against him. Another cop within the last few months was sentenced to 20 years in prison. So let's not be ignorant.
As a matter
in
of
terms
fact,
how we
I
approach
probably could get on my tablet or my phone and give you a ton of instances where a police officer has gone to prison.
Yes.
Because of misuse of force. Right?
Absolutely. And that's a whole other sort of topic. But I think the what I was getting at was to say, like, basically, while this was technically justified in terms of that moment, the officer's defense, from what I've read, is simply that he believed that man was reaching for a gun, and in that moment, he had to make that decision of deadly force. So while technically it appears that though the shooting was justified, I believe that on a practical level, it was an avoidable situation. Avoidable in how would you say it's avoidable, if you would agree with me? Do you agree with that statement or do you disagree with it?
Well, I think that we have to approach it, again, differently. So I agree with you, But the reality is this: it's not about the Monday quarterbacking. It's about how can we use this video? How can we use this incident to make the police department better? And I know that sounds really cheesy, blah, 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 but that is actually how we get policy. And these videos are shown all over the country, even the world.
Yep.
We see videos all the time in our training to figure out what can we do better, where this may be a learning point. What can we do so that we can avoid situations like this? Maybe we can't. Maybe we can't avoid them, but maybe we can. And so what do we do?
For example, like we could look at one of the things that we learned in felony stops a lot of times. You see this on cops or whatever else like that. Lift your shirt up, spin around in 360 degrees, right? So we see the waistband. That didn't happen here. So those are the types of things that I think you're talking about. Like, okay, next time we find ourselves in a situation like this, and we want to be really, really clear that we don't take the pleasure in anyone's loss of life, period.
No.
Like it's not like we're like, well, should have listened. Well, you should have just listened.
Right. That's
chalk another one up for the good guys.
Yeah.
Don't be an idiot. And like that's not our attitude at all.
Yeah. What did they say? Play stupid games.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make any sense. That's stupid.
Am I glad in situations where the good guys win in very like black and white terms? Someone comes in, someone starts shooting at innocent people, and that person is the one that doesn't go home. Am I glad that happened? Yes, in the objective sense, I still know that person's still loved by someone and was raised by someone and was cared for by someone, and it doesn't make it any easier for those people who are dealing with that loss. I can be more callous toward that because I'm not personally involved. But in these types of situations,
right? Because in that situation, society won. It's not just about the police officer.
Right.
It's like you say, the good guys. It's society. It's community. They won because we had a definite bad guy who was doing bad things. I get it, but again, that happens, and things like this happen too, where things look to be one way, and maybe they aren't.
When I say this situation was avoidable, I'm coming at that from a hindsight perspective.
Absolutely,
100%.
I would say the same thing.
I don't know that in this same situation, if you put me there, I can't say I would have done it differently. I don't know, because we don't have the same feelings, we don't have the same environment, we don't have the same sounds, we don't have the same perspective,
background, anything.
We don't know. But as objectively as we can look at this and go, man, if the commands would have actually been a little bit more simpler and clearer, would they have been followed? If he wouldn't have been hammered brandishing a pellet gun, would the situation have ever happened? There's a lot of things that were avoidable, I believe, by both the victim and the officers in this, that I wish we could all go back and everyone could do what it took on their end to avoid all this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like I said before, all police officers do things a little bit different. I do if I want a traffic stop and I pull somebody out, if I do a pat down on an individual, I guarantee it's different than 100 other officers in the same police department. Right. And so we have to look at that as well. How we do business.
I looked at this, and normally Dave and I don't share our thoughts on something before we come into the podcast because we want it to be more raw. This time we shared a little bit, and I think this was sort of handled poorly. I just look at this, and I was watching the time tick by, and I'm just like, man, this is dragging on and on and on. And in those situations, the longer something drags on, man, the more volatile it seems to become. The more tension builds, and I felt it. I felt it watching this. Like,
I think
guys,
anybody could.
I'm just like, guys, we need to get this. Like, let's get this moving. Let's get them cleared out, and let's get them in handcuffs and get them out of the hallway. I was just like imagining myself in that situation, like, oh, this is taking too long. This is not good. This is not going to end well.
Yeah.
The longer this drags on, the more proclivity for violence is going to happen.
Building.
We need to get this over with. And so that mix of slowness and confusion on the part of the people that were on the other end, and the dragging out and confusion and sometimes contradictory statements from the officers. This was a terrible recipe for a tragedy like this.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
in that split moment, only that officer knows, in all honesty, out of his experience, what he felt and what he perceived in that moment. And that and you cannot dispute the motion of that hand to a place that is very common for people to carry and reach for guns in a situation where they had been called to a gun being brandished.
And keeping in mind, if you've never dealt with this situation, it is not uncommon. Again, that's why I said I don't listen to the comments of the individual, because what they say can be completely opposite of what they do. So I've had people, grown men, crying and sobbing, and then all of a sudden it's on.
Snap and fight and run or whatever else they're doing.
You don't know. You can't use that as a gauge. Well, he was begging for his life. He was doing that. It just doesn't work that way. That's just not how, because we live in the real world. We don't live in storybook world where if you are crying and you say, please don't hurt me, you actually mean it. I mean, maybe he does, maybe he does. But that's not how we have to take it.
The storybook world is that everything is black or white. There's always a good guy. There's always a bad guy. Right?
Yes.
So we have to assign that. People feel like they have to assign a good guy and a bad guy. So people are, like we said, they're polarized on this particular issue. No, the cop's either the good guy or the cop is the villain.
Right.
And Shaver is the good guy, or it's opposite.
Right.
Right. And quite honestly, I don't know that there's a bad guy in this. There's a tragedy.
That's what I see.
There is a terrible tragedy here that hopefully we learn from. And this is the gray.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Hokey Pokey. I saw Twister.
There's a lot of stuff going on in here.
So
where the intent, I don't think that we can say the intent for someone there to harm was present. And I don't think Shaver or I don't know if his girlfriend or fiance. I think it was his fiance.
That was not. That was a female that he met. From
different.
what I read, yes, his wife wasn't there. But I think he was in town for some kind of thing for. He was a
pest control.
Pest control or something. That's what he used the pellet guns for.
Yeah.
And I think an article said, and I could be wrong, but an article said that he met her and I believe another person in the elevator, or at least her in the elevator. Now I don't know. I know he's married with children. I assume that this was, hey, I'm having a drink.
Yeah, check out my weapon that I use for whatever.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah. But so obviously that's speculating on that.
That's complete speculation.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But either way, I don't believe that was his wife. And supposedly there was a third person, but they were gone way before that happened. In the end, they did find 2 pellet guns in there. So the run wasn't a made up run. It was an actual run that came in from a concerned citizen. They treated it as such. Obviously, I think there was some very muddy instructions at times, but in the end, the individual, he did reach for his back. Again, you put 10 different cops in that situation, you'll get 10 different ends to that scenario.
I think there are situations, there are body cam videos, there are dash cam videos, there are cell phone videos of situations where I look at and go, this is cut and dry.
Yeah, one way or the other. It's cut and dry.
I absolutely have seen a lot of situations like that where I feel 100% confident going, that was justified, 100%, or that was messed up.
Yeah.
That cop should not be a cop.
Right.
I've actually never seen a video where a cop just decided to go rogue and the body cam shows him saying to himself, well, today people are going to die, and just grab a shotgun and just start killing people. I haven't ever seen that, but I'm saying where you look and go, that officer was poorly trained or freaked out or completely was in the wrong. Well, I've seen that too. This just is one of those oh my goodness, this is tense. One last thing I want to mention. How long have we been going?
52 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. One thing I will mention is that it was brought up, I don't know if it was in the trial, but it was brought up that inside the officer that fired his dust cover of the rifle said something about you're going to effing die, or
something derogatory in some
type of phrase
way.
Indicating that he was sort of looking forward to the day where he could justify shooting someone. Do you have any Thoughts on that?
First of all, I've never done that. I think it's silly, but I'm not young and dumb anymore like that. I just don't think that looks cool. You know what I mean? I don't think it looks. That's a badass gun.
It certainly
whatever.
looks terrible.
No,
it looks terrible.
And again, that's why officers have to know that all that stuff will come back on you,
right?
Because maybe there is an intent to do harm on people. Good. Go to jail for the rest of your life then. Do I believe that happened in this case? I don't believe this officer put his uniform on today or that day and said, "Oh man, I can't wait. I think today's the day." I don't know officers like that. I'm sorry. Again, we're human beings. If you were to ask me about my particular shooting, the last thing I thought of that day, as a matter of fact, it was time to go home. It was summertime. I was going up north that same day, that morning. We were leaving right from work. I was going to go home. We were going to leave, and we got this late run. I worked midnights, so it was early morning. It was like 6 something in the morning or something like that, and it got out of hand so fast. Not by police officers, but by the suspect. But it was the last thing. Matter of fact, not just going into work that night. That was the last thing I thought about that I was going to have to deal with before going up north.
Right.
There is nothing worse than taking someone's life. I'm sorry. There's just nothing worse than that I can imagine. Maybe losing my wife or my
right, yeah,
my children. But I'm talking about it in a police officer in a situational thing. Having to take someone's life is one of the worst things. As a matter of fact, I never even thought it was in my job description until that day.
Yeah, and
then I had to realize that this is the crap part of my job, the literal worst.
Right.
So
so for those of you, and we mentioned this before, for those of you that are going to just hate how we handled this situation, that's okay, because we're speaking out of real world experience and not a textbook, not a theory, not a news channel, not a tweet. This is
one of them Twitters.
This is the real world that we're speaking from.
Yeah.
And trying to be as objective as possible, and hopefully at least that much comes through. Whether you agree with our assessment, whether you disagree with it, at least at the end of the day, we put it out there, and we're just trying to be honest in our assessment of the situation.
Right. And the amount of stress that an individual feels after something like that from all these involved, including the female that was the stress is so overwhelming. Again, for my first shooting, I was off for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
I had very little contact with my police department because I was fairly new. Not a lot of people knew me that well. So you spend 5 weeks wondering if you will have a job or a future. It's you don't need that,
right.
Coupled with the fact that you took somebody's life. There's nothing worse than that. It is absolutely a horrible, horrible deal. So
and those lives don't have more or less value than yours, than mine.
No.
And I think that most people need to understand that. I mean, if good cops, which are the majority of us, view all life as valuable, or we wouldn't do this job.
No.
I mean, I don't
Absolutely.
think so. I mean, and the ones that don't do it that way, they don't last. Now, this cop actually was fired. They say it was a lot of
policy issues.
There are some policy issues of which I'm not privy to all of their policies. Some people say it was political because the chief was trying to save face and get rid of an officer before there was a big uproar, that sort of a thing. I'm just not. I have not had the time to dig that far into this. We just wanted. We had so many people asking us about this that we felt like now is the time. Let's comment as we see it, and that's, I guess, how we see it.
Yeah. Oh, also, just real quick, I know we're wrapping it up, but in October, when they showed this video to the jury, the defense tried to stop the video from being played by the prosecutor. That's just so everybody knows. That also, because that might come up too. That's not uncommon. I think any time that defense can or prosecution can have something muffled or gotten rid of, they will always do it.
Yeah, if it would weaken your case in any way.
That for 1 second that it could, they will try to get rid of it. So it's not uncommon in court for those kind of things to happen on both sides, whether it's prosecution or defense.
Yeah.
Too,
So, all right, guys, that's our special edition.
that was it, man.
Not a lot of humor. Sorry.
But it did.
But
Thank Patreon.
thank you, Patreon subscribers. Again, we're using our
Yeah.
new equipment. We apologize that if there's any technical difficulties with this episode. I don't know.
This had better recorded.
Yeah,
because
I sure hope
this
this
took
works.
actually took a lot out of me. Good
Yeah.
night. Yeah.
So, again, feel free to comment and engage. If there's follow-up questions, if there's little nuances to this that you want our feedback on, we'll be happy to try to jump in there. But if you want to just be polarized on one side or the other and beat the drum of your tribe, that's okay. We're just going to ignore you. You can play with each other in one big circle.
There you go.
Yeah, have fun out there in the comments. We'll see you out there.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, bye.